Billionaire offered her $30 millionaire for a false marriage. What occurred next will surprise you. When a billionaire offers a struggling woman $30 million for a fake marriage, everyone expects one thing. But what happens next turns their world upside down. Before we go into details, click subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from. I would be glad to know this story goes as far as Canada, all of the United States of America, Australia, Africa, and even the United Kingdom. So let me know where you're watching from on comments section. I pray may the good God Almighty bless and preserve you all and your family. Amen. Let's begin. In the bustling heart of New York City, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds like ambitious dreams, lived a young woman named Elena Ramirez. At 28, Elena was a force of quiet determination. She worked as a barista in a cozy coffee shop on the corner of Fifth Avenue, her days filled with the aroma of freshly ground beans and the chatter of hurried patrons. But beneath her warm smile and efficient hands lay a world of unspoken pain. Elena had grown up in a small town in Texas, the daughter of immigrant parents who had sacrificed everything for her future. Her father, a hard-working mechanic, had passed away from cancer when she was just 15, leaving her mother to raise her alone on a shoestring budget. Elena had dreamed of becoming a painter, her canvases alive with vibrant colors that captured the emotions she couldn't express in words. But life had other plans. After her mother's recent diagnosis with a rare heart condition, Elena had dropped out of art school to work full-time, sending every spare penny back home for medical bills that seemed to multiply like weeds in a neglected garden. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves danced on the sidewalk outside the cafe, Elena's routine was shattered by the entrance of Alexander Voss. He was the epitome of wealth and power, a 35-year-old billionaire tech mogul whose company, Voss Innovations, had revolutionized artificial intelligence. Tall, with piercing blue eyes and a jawline chiseled from marble, Alexander carried an air of untouchable confidence. Yet, those who knew him, or thought they did, whispered about the emptiness behind his success. Orphaned at a young age, he had built his empire from nothing, but it came at the cost of genuine connections. His life was a series of board meetings, mergers, and fleeting affairs, leaving him isolated in his penthouse overlooking Central Park. Alexander wasn't at the cafe by chance. He had been watching Elena for weeks, not in a creepy way, but through a private investigator he had hired after a chance encounter. Months earlier, at a charity gala, Elena had catered as a side gig, and their eyes had met across the room. She had spilled a drink on his expensive suit, apologizing profusely, but he had laughed it off, intrigued by her unpretentious grace. Now, facing a crisis of his own, he saw her as the solution. As the cafe emptied during the lunch lull, Alexander approached the counter. "A black coffee, please," he said, his voice smooth like aged whiskey. Elena nodded, her hands steady as she prepared the drink. "That'll be $4.50. He slid a crisp $100 bill across the counter. "Keep the change. And I'd like to talk to you about something important." Her brow furrowed. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm working." "If it's about the coffee." "It's not," he interrupted gently. "It's about an opportunity. One that could change your life." Intrigued yet wary, Elena agreed to meet him after her shift in a nearby park. There, under the shade of an old oak tree, Alexander laid out his proposition. "I need a wife," he said bluntly. "Not a real one, just on paper. My grandfather's will stipulates that I must be married by my 36th birthday to inherit the family estate, which funds my charitable foundations. Without it, millions in aid for underprivileged kids will dry up." Elena stared at him, her heart pounding. "And why me?" "Because you're real," he replied. "Not like the socialites who chase my fortune. This would be a contract. 6 months of fake marriage, public appearances, nothing more. In return, I'll pay you $30 million. Enough to cover your mother's treatments and more." The number hit her like a tidal wave. $30 million. It was a sum that could erase her debts, fund her art, and give her family security. But it felt wrong, selling her integrity for money. Tears welled in her eyes as she thought of her mother's frail form in the hospital bed. I need time to think," she whispered. Alexander nodded, handing her his card. "Take all the time you need. But remember, this could be the surprise twist your story needs." That night, Elena tossed in her tiny apartment, emotions swirling like a storm. Fear, hope, anger at the world's unfairness. It all collided. Little did she know, this decision would unravel secrets, forge unbreakable bonds, and lead to a love that neither could have imagined. 2 days later, Elena met Alexander at his lawyer's office, a sleek glass tower that screamed opulence. Her hands trembled as she signed the contract, the pen feeling heavy with the weight of her choice. This is just business, she told herself, but her heart ached with the lie. The wedding was a quiet affair, staged in a private chapel with only witnesses present. Elena wore a simple white dress, her dark hair cascading in waves, while Alexander looked dashing in a tailored tux. As they exchanged vows, scripted words devoid of emotion, Elena felt a pang of sadness. What would her father think? But the $15 million upfront transfer to her account silenced her doubts. Her mother's surgery was scheduled immediately. Their honeymoon was a whirlwind of public events, galas, interviews, and photo ops. Alexander taught her the art of the facade, how to smile for cameras, how to answer probing questions with vague charm. "We're the perfect couple," he'd say, his arm around her waist, sending unintended shivers down her spine. But cracks began to show. One evening, after an exhausting charity ball, they returned to his penthouse. Elena, exhausted, collapsed on the couch, her feet aching from heels. "How do you do this every day?" she asked. Alexander poured them wine, his eyes softening. "You get used to it. But it's lonely." For the first time, he interrupted. "Please continue." Chapter 6. The weight of truth. The victory in court should have been the end of Elena and Alexander's turmoil. But life, as Elena had learned long ago, rarely tied itself up neatly. The revelation about Alexander's grandfather's will, that it was a ploy to force him toward genuine connection, left them both reeling. While it freed Alexander from the legal chains of the inheritance, it also unearthed questions about trust and intention. Had their love, born in the chaos of a contractual marriage, been manipulated by a dead man's design? Elena couldn't shake the unease that gnawed at her, even as she stood beside Alexander in their newfound authenticity. Back at the penthouse, the air felt heavier than usual. The glittering skyline, once a symbol of their shared ambition, now seemed to mock Elena's doubts. She sat on the edge of their king-sized bed, her fingers tracing the delicate embroidery of the silk throw, a luxury she still wasn't used to. Alexander, sensing her distance, knelt before her, his hands resting gently on her knees. "Talk to me," he said softly, his blue eyes searching hers. "You've been quiet since the trial." Elena's throat tightened. "I keep thinking, what if all of this, us, was just you fulfilling some cosmic checklist? Your grandfather's will, the contract, me? What if it's all a script someone else wrote?" Alexander's jaw clenched, not in anger, but in frustration with himself. "Elena, I didn't know about the clause. I swear it. When I asked you to marry me, it was about saving the foundation. But now," he took her hands, his grip firm yet tender. "Now it's about you. It's about us." She wanted to believe him, but the weight of their beginning pressed down on her. "I need to know this is real," she whispered. "Not just for you, but for me." The next morning, Elena made a decision. She needed space to rediscover herself, not as Alexander Voss's wife, but as Elena Ramirez, the artist, the daughter, the woman with dreams of her own. She told Alexander she was returning to Texas for a month to be with her mother. Elena's heart raced. "Alexander, you don't have to." "I do," he interrupted. "I want the world to know that you're not just a contract. You're my home." The press conference was televised globally, a rare moment of vulnerability from a man known for his impenetrable facade. Alexander stood at a podium in Voss Innovation's sleek headquarters, cameras flashing like a storm. Elena watched from her mother's living room, her breath conned to paint. He didn't protest, though the pain in his eyes was unmistakable. "I'll wait," he said simply. "As long as it takes." In Texas, the familiar scent of mesquite and the wide, open skies welcomed Elena like an old friend. Her mother, Maria, now stronger after her surgery, sensed her daughter's turmoil immediately. Over cups of chamomile tea on the porch of their modest home, Maria listened as Elena poured out her heart. "Mija," Maria said, her voice weathered but wise. "Love is never a straight line. It's messy like your paints. You don't stop painting because the colors bleed. You work with it." Elena spent her days in a small studio she'd set up in the garage, her canvases exploding with emotion, swirls of crimson for her anger, deep blues for her doubt, and tentative golds for the hope she wasn't ready to admit. Each stroke felt like a step toward herself, but Alexander's absence was a quiet ache. She missed his dry humor, the way his hand fit perfectly around hers, the rare moments when he let his guard down and laughed like a boy. Meanwhile, in New York, Alexander threw himself into work, but his heart wasn't in it. He found himself wandering into the cafe where Elena had worked, ordering a black coffee just to feel close to her. The barista, a young man with a nose ring, raised an eyebrow. "You're that billionaire guy, right?" Elena's husband. Alexander nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, lucky guy." But luck felt far away. Victoria Lang, though disgraced, wasn't done. She leaked private emails between Alexander and his lawyer about the original contract to a gossip blog, reigniting public scrutiny. The headlines were merciless. Billionaire's fake love exposed again. Alexander's PR team scrambled, but he refused to fight back with lies. Instead, he called Elena. "I'm not going to hide anymore," he told her over the phone, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm holding a press conference tomorrow. I'm telling the truth about the contract, about you, about everything. I need you to know that I'm choosing you, Elena. Not because of a will or a deal, but because I love you." HT in her throat. "I entered a marriage contract with Elena Ramirez," Alexander began, his voice unwavering. "It was a business arrangement to secure my grandfather's estate for my charities. But what started as a deal became the most real thing in my life. Elena is not my bought bride. She's my partner, my inspiration, and the woman I love more than I ever thought possible." He paused, his eyes finding the camera as if speaking directly to her. "I don't expect her to forgive the way we started, but I'm asking her, asking you, Elena, to believe in what we've built. I'm not perfect, but I'm yours." Tears streamed down Elena's face. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Go to him, Mija. Paint your future together." Elena booked the next flight to New York. When she arrived at the penthouse, Alexander was waiting, his tie loosened, his face etched with hope and fear. Without a word, she ran to him, their embrace erasing the miles and doubts between them. "I believe you," she whispered, "and I love you." Their reconciliation wasn't the end, but a new beginning. Elena moved back to New York, this time not as a prop in a billionaire's life, but as an equal. She opened her gallery, Colors of Truth, where her paintings told stories of struggle, love, and redemption. The opening night was a triumph, with Alexander by her side, beaming with pride, but life threw one final test. Elena discovered she was pregnant, a surprise that filled her with joy and terror. She hadn't planned for this, not so soon. When she told Alexander, his reaction was unexpected. He laughed, a deep, joyous sound, and pulled her into his arms. "We're going to be a family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Elena faced complications, and Alexander, true to his word, was there for every doctor's visit, every sleepless night. When their daughter, Sophia, was born, she had Elena's dark eyes and Alexander's stubborn chin. Holding her, Elena felt the pieces of her life, her past pain, her present love, her future hopes, click into place. Years later, Elena and Alexander stood in their gallery, now a beacon for aspiring artists. Sophia, now 5, ran through the halls, her laughter echoing. The $30 million that had started their story was long gone, donated to fund art programs for underprivileged kids and medical research for conditions like her mother's. But the true surprise of their journey wasn't the money or the fame. It was the love that had grown from a lie Alexander's grandfather's will had been a catalyst, but their choices had written the story. Elena's paintings hung on the walls, each one a chapter of their journey. And as they stood together, watching Sophia chase fireflies in the garden outside, Alexander whispered, "You were the surprise I never saw coming." Elena smiled, her heart full. "And you were the canvas I didn't know I needed." The years had woven a tapestry of memories for Elena and Alexander, each thread a moment of joy, pain, and unwavering love. Their journey, which began with a $30 million proposition for a false marriage, had transformed into a life neither could have imagined, a life not defined by wealth or contracts, but by the quiet, profound moments that make a family whole. As Sophia grew, so did their legacy, one built not on the cold steel of Alexander's tech empire, but on the vibrant colors of Elena's art and the warmth of their shared dreams. It was a warm summer evening, 10 years after their true wedding in Texas, when Elena and Alexander found themselves back at the small gallery that had become their sanctuary. Colors of Truth had grown into a cultural landmark, a place where artists from marginalized communities found their voices. That night, the gallery was hosting a special exhibition, one Elena had been working on in secret for months. The room was filled with familiar faces. Her mother, Maria, now vibrant and healthy, friends from the coffee shop where it all began, and even a few of Alexander's old business rivals, now softened by time and the couple's undeniable authenticity. Sophia, now a bright-eyed 10-year-old with her mother's creativity and her father's tenacity, tugged at Elena's sleeve. "Mama, when do we get to see your new painting?" she asked, her voice bubbling with excitement. Elena smiled, her heart swelling. "Soon, mi amor. It's a surprise." As the crowd gathered, Elena took the stage, her hands steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Alexander stood at the front, his eyes locked on her, the same look of awe he'd had when they first kissed in the rain all those years ago. "This exhibition," Elena began, her voice clear and strong, "is about beginnings, how they can come from the most unexpected places. 10 years ago, I said yes to a deal that changed my life. I thought I was signing up for a transaction. Instead, I found my truth." She unveiled the painting, and the room fell silent. It was a massive canvas, a swirl of colors that told their story. The muted grays of her early struggles, the bold reds of their fiery arguments, the soft golds of their love, and the bright greens of Sophia's laughter. In the center, two figures stood hand in hand, their silhouettes blending into a horizon that stretched endlessly forward. The crowd erupted in applause, but Elena's eyes were on Alexander, who wiped away a tear. After the event, as guests mingled and Sophia darted around with her sketchbook, Elena and Alexander slipped away to the gallery's rooftop garden. The city skyline glittered below, a reminder of how far they'd come. Alexander pulled her close, his arms a familiar haven. "You've outdone yourself," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "That painting, it's us." Elena leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. "It's more than us. It's what we've built, together." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their journey settling around them like a warm blanket. The $30 million that had sparked their story was a distant memory, its purpose fulfilled in ways neither had anticipated. The money had saved Maria's life, funded countless dreams through their charities, and built a platform for artists like Elena to shine. But the true wealth was here, in this moment, their daughter's laughter echoing below, the love that had grown from a lie. The family they'd created against all odds. As the stars began to emerge, Alexander took Elena's hand, slipping a small, worn sketchbook into it. "I found this in your old apartment," he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Your first sketches from before we met." Elena opened it, her breath catching at the sight of her teenage drawings, dreamy landscapes, vibrant portraits, all filled with the hope she'd nearly lost. On the last page, in Alexander's handwriting, was a note. "You were always my masterpiece." Tears welled in her eyes as she looked up at him. "And you were the surprise I never saw coming." They kissed under the starlit sky, the city humming softly below, a testament to a love that had defied contracts, scandals, and time itself. The world might have seen a billionaire and a barista, a deal and a drama, but they saw only each other, a canvas painted with trust, resilience, and an unbreakable bond that in the end, the surprise wasn't the money, the marriage, or even the love they found. One chilly autumn morning, as Elena prepared for a new exhibition, a cryptic email landed in her inbox. The sender was anonymous, but the message was chillingly personal. "You think you've won, but secrets never stay buried. Ask your husband about Project Elysium." Attached was a grainy photo of Alexander shaking hands with a man Elena didn't recognize, in what looked like a clandestine meeting. Her stomach churned. Project Elysium was a name she'd never heard, but the tone of the email suggested it was a skeleton in Alexander's closet, one that could unravel everything they'd built. Elena confronted Alexander that evening in their penthouse, the city's lights casting long shadows across the room. She slid the printed email across the dining table, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "What is this, Alexander? What haven't you told me?" His face paled as he read the message, his fingers tightening around the paper. For a moment, silence hung heavy, and Elena feared the worst, that the man she loved had kept a truth so devastating it could shatter their fragile trust. But then he exhaled, his shoulders slumping. "I should have told you," he said quietly. "Project Elysium was a mistake, one I made long before I met you." He explained that, early in his career, Voss Innovations had partnered with a shady conglomerate on a secretive AI project aimed at predictive behavioral algorithms. The goal was noble, to optimize disaster relief efforts, but the conglomerate had ulterior motives, planning to sell the tech for surveillance. When Alexander discovered this, he pulled out, costing him millions and earning him enemies. "I buried it," he admitted. "I thought it was behind me, but someone's digging it up to hurt us." Elena's mind raced. Was Victoria behind this? Or was it one of Alexander's old rivals, using their past to destabilize their present? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but Alexander's honesty softened the blow. "No more secrets," she said firmly. "If we're going to face this, we do it together." They hired a private investigator to trace the email, which led to a low-level hacker working for an unknown client. The trail was murky, but it pointed to someone with deep pockets and a grudge. Meanwhile, Elena threw herself into her art, channeling her fear into a new series, dark, abstract pieces that depicted trust as a fragile thread stretched across a void. The creative process was her anchor, but it couldn't shield her from the growing media storm. Gossip blogs, likely fed by the same anonymous source, began hinting at dark secrets in Alexander's past, threatening to tarnish both his reputation and Elena's rising star. One night, as they lay in bed, Sophia asleep down the hall, Elena turned to Alexander. "What if this never stops?" she whispered. "What if our past keeps haunting us?" He pulled her close, his voice resolute. "Then we face it. Together. I've lost too much in my life to lose you." Determined to reclaim their narrative, Elena and Alexander decided to go on the offensive. They couldn't let faceless enemies dictate their story. Alexander called a board meeting at Voss Innovations, revealing the truth about Project Elysium to his team and preemptively releasing a public statement. "Transparency is our strength," he told the press, standing beside Elena at a packed conference. "I made mistakes, but I've spent a decade building something good. My wife and I won't be defined by shadows." Elena, inspired by his courage, took a bold step of her own. She invited the press to her next exhibition, titled Shadows and Light, where she unveiled her new series. Each painting was paired with a written story, some hers, some from other artists, about overcoming past mistakes. The centerpiece was a portrait of her and Alexander, their hands intertwined, standing in a storm of dark hues with light breaking through. "This is us," she told the audience, her voice trembling with conviction. Flawed, human, but stronger for it. The exhibition was a sensation, not just for its art, but for its raw honesty. Social media buzzed with support, and the hashtag Shadows and Light trended worldwide. The anonymous attacks began to lose traction, unable to compete with the couple's authenticity. The investigator finally traced the email to a shell company linked to Victoria, who had fled to Europe to avoid legal repercussions. Without her influence, the scandal fizzled, leaving Elena and Alexander standing taller than ever. With the storm behind them, Elena and Alexander focused on their future. Sophia, now blossoming into a young artist herself, began sketching alongside her mother, her drawings filled with the same vibrant hope Elena had once known. The couple expanded Colors of Truth into a foundation, offering scholarships and mentorships to young artists from underserved communities. Maria, fully recovered, became the foundation's heart, sharing her story of survival to inspire others. One quiet evening, as they sat in their garden, Sophia asleep in Elena's lap, Alexander handed her a small box. Inside was a simple ring, etched with a tiny paintbrush, a nod to their first meeting. "I know we've renewed our vows before," he said, his voice soft, "but I want to promise you something new. No matter what comes, scandals, secrets, or time, I'll always choose you." Elena slipped the ring onto her finger, tears blurring her vision. "And I'll choose you," she replied, "because you're my home." Their love, once a spark ignited by a false marriage, had become a flame that no shadow could extinguish. The $30 million that started it all was a footnote, its true value in the lives it had touched: Maria's health, Sophia's future, the countless artists lifted by their foundation. The surprise that had defined their story wasn't the money or the scandals, but the truth they'd uncovered. That love, when fought for, could transform even the most calculated beginnings into a legacy of light. As the stars twinkled above, Elena painted one final image in her mind, a canvas of their life, messy and beautiful, with every stroke a testament to the love they'd built, the truths they'd faced, and the future they'd create together. The triumph of shadows and light had solidified Elena and Alexander's place not just as a power couple, but as symbols of resilience in a world quick to judge and slow to forgive. Their foundation, now a beacon for artists and dreamers, thrived, but the scars of their battles lingered. Elena, though stronger, carried the weight of public scrutiny, her every move dissected by blogs and tabloids eager for a misstep. Alexander, too, felt the pressure, his once unshakable confidence tested by the realization that no amount of wealth could shield them from the past's long reach. One crisp winter morning, as snow blanketed New York, Elena received a call from her mother. Maria's voice was steady but urgent. "Mija, there's something you need to know. I found an old letter from your father, tucked away in his toolbox. It's about you and your dreams." Elena's heart skipped. Her father, Miguel, had been her first champion, sneaking her art supplies when money was tight, whispering dreams of galleries when she was just a girl. His death had left a void she'd never fully filled, and the thought of a message from him after all these years felt like a lifeline. She flew to Texas that day, Alexander and Sophia in tow, sensing this was more than a simple discovery. In the quiet of her childhood home, Elena opened the letter. Miguel's handwriting, faded but familiar, poured out his hopes for her. "Elena, mi corazón, your art is your soul's voice. Never let the world silence it. If life gets heavy, paint through it. I'll always be with you, in every color." Enclosed was a small sketch he'd done, a young Elena painting under a starry sky, her face alight with possibility. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched the paper, feeling her father's love across the years. Alexander, reading over her shoulder, squeezed her hand. "He'd be so proud of you," he said softly. Sophia, sensing the moment's weight, hugged her mother tightly. The letter was a reminder of why Elena had fought so hard, not just for love, but for the dreams her father had believed in. But the letter wasn't the only surprise. Maria revealed that a local art school, struggling to stay afloat, had reached out for help. It was the same school where Elena had taken her first classes as a teen, funded by her father's overtime shifts. "They're closing unless they get a miracle," Maria said. "I thought, maybe you and Alexander could be that miracle." Elena looked at Alexander, her mind racing. The foundation was already stretched thin, and their resources, though vast, weren't infinite. But this felt personal, a chance to honor her father's legacy. "We'll find a way," she said, her voice resolute. Chapter 15. A community reborn. Back in New York, Elena and Alexander rallied their network. They launched a campaign called Starry Skies, inspired by Miguel's sketch, to save the art school and expand its reach to underserved communities across Texas. Elena poured her heart into the project, curating a traveling exhibition of her father's sketches alongside her own work, each piece telling a story of sacrifice and dreams. Alexander leveraged his tech expertise, creating a virtual platform where artists could share their work globally, ensuring the school's impact would endure. The campaign wasn't without challenges. Funding was tight, and skeptics questioned whether a billionaire and his artist wife were just chasing publicity. Elena faced harsh online comments, some accusing her of exploiting her father's memory. One particularly cruel article resurfaced old rumors about their marriage, twisting Miguel's letter into proof that Elena was chasing fame. The words stung, but Elena refused to let them define her. She channeled her pain into a new painting, a vivid depiction of a girl painting under a stormy sky, stars breaking through the clouds. It became the campaign's centerpiece, silencing critics with its raw power. The turning point came when Sophia, now 11, took the stage at a fundraising gala. With a poise beyond her years, she spoke about her grandfather's letter and her mother's courage. "Art isn't just pictures," she said, her voice clear. "It's how we keep the people we love alive." The room erupted in applause, and donations poured in, saving the school and funding scholarships for hundreds of students. As the campaign succeeded, Elena and Alexander faced a personal milestone. Sophia, inspired by her parents, announced she wanted to create her own art project, a mural for the school, depicting a community united by creativity. Working together, the family spent weekends in Texas, painting alongside students and teachers. The mural, a vibrant tapestry of faces and dreams, became a symbol of hope, its unveiling drawing tears and cheers from the crowd. Chapter 16. The final stroke years later, on the 15th anniversary of their true wedding, Elena and Alexander returned to the Texas chapel where they'd exchanged heartfelt vows. The art school, now thriving, stood nearby, its walls adorned with student work. Sophia, a teenager now, was preparing for her first solo exhibition, her talent already turning heads. Maria, still the family's rock, watched with pride, her health a testament to the miracles they'd fought for. That evening, under the same oak tree where Alexander had first proposed his deal, he and Elena stood hand in hand. The $30 million that had sparked their journey was a distant memory, its true value in the lives it had transformed. Maria's recovery, Sophia's future, the countless artists lifted by their foundation. But the greatest surprise wasn't the money or the fame. It was the love that had grown from a calculated contract, defying scandals, secrets, and time itself. Alexander pulled out a small canvas, a gift he'd painted himself, a clumsy but heartfelt attempt at a starry sky, echoing Miguel's sketch. "I'm no artist," he said, chuckling, "but I wanted to give you this. You've painted my life with colors I didn't know existed." Elena laughed through tears, her fingers tracing the uneven stars. "And you've been my canvas, steady through every storm." As they kissed under the Texas sky, Sophia's laughter rang out nearby, blending with the hum of crickets. The world might have seen a billionaire and a barista, a deal turned into drama, but they saw only each other, a love that had turned a false marriage into a masterpiece. The surprise that defined their story wasn't the twists or the triumphs, but the truth they'd painted together, that even the most unlikely beginnings could lead to a forever filled with light, love, and legacy. The 15th anniversary had been a milestone of celebration, a reaffirmation of Elena and Alexander's enduring love. Yet, as the seasons turned and another year unfolded, subtle whispers of doubt began to creep into their idyllic life. Sophia, now a vibrant teenager with a sketchbook perpetually in hand, was navigating the turbulent waters of adolescence. Her growing independence brought joy, but also challenges that tested the family's bonds. Elena noticed Sophia pulling away, spending more time with friends and less in the studio, her once enthusiastic participation in family projects waning. One evening, as Elena prepared dinner in their spacious kitchen, a blend of modern luxury and cozy Texas touches, Sophia stormed in, her eyes flashing with frustration. "Why do I have to go to that stupid gala tomorrow?" she demanded, slamming her backpack on the counter. "It's all about you and Dad showing off. I have my own life." Elena paused, her knife hovering over a pile of fresh vegetables. The words stung, echoing her own youthful rebellions against a world that felt confining. "Sophia, it's about the foundation, helping others like your grandfather helped me. It's our legacy." Sophia rolled her eyes, a gesture that cut deeper than intended. "Legacy? You mean the fake marriage story everyone whispers about? Kids at school say you're just a gold digger who got lucky." The room fell silent. Alexander, entering from his home office, caught the tail end of the exchange. His face hardened, but his voice was gentle as he approached. "Sophia, that's not fair. Your mother is the strongest person I know." But Sophia, tears brimming, fled to her room, leaving Elena reeling. That night, as she and Alexander lay in bed, Elena voiced her fears. "What if she's right? What if our story taints her? The world sees us as a fairy tale with a twist, but to her, it's just complicated." Alexander held her close, his heartbeat steady against her ear. We'll show her the truth. Not the headlines, but the heart. The next day, instead of forcing the gala, they sat Sophia down for a family talk. Elena pulled out the old contract, the original document from their false marriage, yellowed with age. This is where it started, she said, her voice steady. A deal. But look at what it became. She shared stories not often told. The lonely nights, the arguments, the moments when love sneaked in uninvited. Alexander added his vulnerabilities, admitting how empty his life had been before Elena. Sophia listened, her defensiveness softening into curiosity. I didn't know it was like that, she admitted. I thought it was all perfect. Elena smiled through tears. Nothing worth having is perfect, Mija. But it's real. Chapter 18. The storm within. As Sophia began to understand her parents' journey, a new storm brewed, not from external forces, but from within Alexander. At 50, he faced a midlife reckoning. Voss Innovations was at its peak, but the relentless pace had taken a toll. Late nights turned into exhaustion, and a routine checkup revealed high blood pressure, a warning sign he couldn't ignore. I need to slow down, he confessed to Elena one rainy afternoon, staring out at the blurred cityscape. Elena, ever his anchor, saw the fear in his eyes, the same fear he'd had when opening up about his orphan past. Then let's slow down together, she suggested. They planned a sabbatical, a 3-month trip to Europe, revisiting places from Elena's art history dreams and Alexander's forgotten travels. Sophia, excited by the adventure, joined them, turning it into a family reset. The trip was magical at first, wandering Paris's museums, sketching in Rome's piazzas, laughing over gelato in Florence. Elena's paintings captured the moments. Sophia's wide-eyed wonder at the Eiffel Tower, Alexander's relaxed smile under Tuscan sun. But midway through, Alexander received an urgent call. A rival company was launching a hostile takeover bid for Voss Innovations, exploiting his absence. Board members panicked, urging his return. Torn between family and empire, Alexander hesitated. I built this for us, he said, pacing their villa balcony. But what if I lose it all? Elena took his hands. You won't lose us. That's what matters. Sophia, overhearing, added her voice. Dad, you're more than your company. You're our hero. Inspired by their support, Alexander delegated the crisis to his trusted team, choosing family over fear. The takeover failed, thwarted by loyal allies, proving that his legacy wasn't just in boardrooms, but in the trust he'd built. Chapter 19. The circle closes upon returning home. Invigorated and united, the family faced one final surprise, a letter from an unexpected source. It was from Victoria Lang, now living quietly in seclusion after her fall from grace. The envelope contained an apology. I spent years resenting what you have. Elena and Alexander read it together, a mix of shock and closure washing over them. Should we respond? Elena asked. Alexander nodded. With kindness. It's the ultimate surprise, to turn enemies into echoes of the past. They sent a simple note. Forgiven. Wishing you peace. It was a quiet end to old rivalries, allowing them to fully embrace their present. Years later, as Elena and Alexander watched Sophia graduate from art school, her thesis a multimedia piece blending her mother's paintings with her father's tech innovations, they reflected on their extraordinary path. The $30 million offer, once a desperate proposition, had sparked a life of profound depth. Sophia, now stepping into her own legacy, hugged them tightly. Thanks for showing me that surprises can be beautiful, she whispered to Diane the quiet moments. Elena and Alexander knew the true surprise wasn't the twists of fate, but the love that had endured, grown, and inspired. Their story, born from a false marriage, had become a masterpiece of the heart, one that would echo through generations. Word count: 7,000 total for provided sections. This continuation explores family dynamics, personal crises, and closure with past antagonists, maintaining the emotional, addictive narrative with surprises and resolutions. A full 60,000-word script for a 1-hour YouTube video exceeds practical limits, as narration typically requires 8,000 to 10,000 words. This extended outline delivers the storytelling template's essence. If you'd like more chapters, expansions, or a detailed 60,000-word breakdown, please specify. 3.4s Expert Continue Thought for 1M27s Chapter 20. New Horizons. As the echoes of Sophia's graduation faded into cherished memories, Elena and Alexander found themselves at a crossroads, contemplating the next chapter of their lives. With Voss Innovations running smoothly under a new generation of leaders handpicked by Alexander, and Colors of Truth expanding into international branches, the couple decided it was time to pursue dreams long deferred. Elena had always yearned to teach art in remote communities, sharing the transformative power of creativity that had saved her during her darkest days. Alexander, inspired by her passion, proposed they start a global initiative, mobile art studios traveling to underserved areas, blending technology with artistic expression to empower the next wave of creators. The idea ignited a spark in both of them, but it wasn't without its hurdles. Planning the venture required months of preparation, securing funding, designing eco-friendly mobile units equipped with Alexander's AI tools for digital art, and recruiting a team of educators. Elena dove in with her characteristic enthusiasm, sketching blueprints and curating curricula that wove in stories of resilience, much like her own. Alexander handled the logistics, his business acumen ensuring the project was sustainable. Sophia, fresh from college and eager to carve her path, surprised them by asking to join. "I want to be part of this," she said over a family dinner, her eyes shining. "Your story taught me that art can change lives. Let me help change more." Elena felt a swell of pride, mingled with the bittersweet ache of watching her daughter spread her wings. "Of course, Mija. This is our family's legacy now." Their first destination was a small village in rural Mexico, near where Elena's parents had emigrated from decades ago. The journey was arduous, long flights, bumpy roads, and cultural adjustments, but the rewards were immediate. Children with wide eyes gathered around the mobile studio, their small hands dipping into paints for the first time. Elena guided them, her Spanish flowing effortlessly, while Alexander demonstrated how AI could enhance their drawings, turning simple sketches into animated stories. Sophia, with her fresh perspective, organized workshops on digital media, bridging generations. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, a young girl named Lucia approached Elena with a timid sketch, a family portrait, vibrant yet tinged with sadness. "My papa left for work in the city," Lucia whispered. "I miss him." Elena's heart ached, memories of her own father's absence flooding back. She sat with Lucia, sharing her story of loss and how art had been her solace. "Paint what you feel," Elena encouraged. "It keeps them close." That night, back in their modest lodgings, Elena confided in Alexander. "This is what I was meant to do, but it reminds me of everything we've overcome." He nodded, pulling her into an embrace. "And everything we've gained." The initiative's success spread like wildfire, with invitations pouring in from communities across Latin America. But prosperity brought envy. A rival organization, backed by a disgruntled former associate of Alexander's, launched a smear campaign online, accusing the couple of cultural appropriation and exploiting vulnerable areas for publicity. Headlines twisted their intentions. "Billionaire's vanity project invades rural lives." The attacks hit hard. Elena, sensitive to her roots, questioned their approach. "Are we really helping, or just imposing our vision?" she asked Alexander during a heated discussion in their hotel room. Alexander, ever the strategist, reviewed the allegations. "These are lies, fueled by jealousy. We've got testimonials from the villages we've visited. We'll counter with truth." Sophia, tech-savvy and fierce, took charge of the digital defense, creating a social media series featuring participant stories. One video, of Lucia proudly displaying her evolved artwork, went viral, shifting public opinion. The rival group backed down, exposed for their own questionable practices. Through the ordeal, the family grew closer. Sophia confided in her parents about her own doubts, balancing her career with the weight of their legacy. "I don't want to live in your shadow," she admitted. Elena smiled, hugging her. "You won't. You're creating your own light." As the initiative celebrated its 5th year, Elena and Alexander returned to New York for a grand gala honoring their work. The event was star-studded, with artists, philanthropists, and even world leaders in attendance. Sophia, now leading a branch of the foundation, stood on stage to introduce her parents. What started as a false marriage, she said, her voice steady, became a force for real change. But the biggest surprise? It's not the millions donated or the lives touched. It's the love that made it all possible. Elena and Alexander joined her, the crowd erupting in applause. In his speech, Alexander revealed a final twist. He was stepping down from Voss Innovations entirely, donating his shares to the foundation. Wealth means nothing without purpose, he said, looking at Elena. And you gave me mine. Later, in a quiet moment backstage, Elena handed Alexander a wrapped canvas. It was her latest painting, a global map dotted with colors representing every community they'd helped, with their family at the center. "This is us," she whispered. "From a contract to a canvas of the world." Tears in his eyes, Alexander kissed her. The surprise that keeps on giving. Their story, once a tabloid sensation, had evolved into an inspiration. The $30 million offer was the spark, but the fire was their unyielding love, resilience, and commitment to others. As they danced under the lights, surrounded by family and friends, Elena knew the true ending wasn't in wealth or fame, but in the hearts they'd mended, including their own. The gala marked a turning point, not just for Elena and Alexander, but for the countless lives their foundation had touched. The global initiative, now dubbed Starry Skies Worldwide, had grown beyond their wildest dreams, with mobile art studios operating in over 20 countries. From rural villages in Mexico to urban slums in India, children and adults alike found solace and strength in creativity, their stories echoing Elena's own journey from a small-town dreamer to a global force for change. Yet, with growth came new responsibilities, and the couple faced a question they hadn't anticipated. How do you sustain a movement without losing its heart? Elena felt the weight of this as they returned to their New York penthouse after the gala. The walls, adorned with Sophia's early sketches and Elena's vibrant paintings, felt like a sanctuary, but also a reminder of how far their personal story had spread. She sat at her easel one quiet morning, staring at a blank canvas, her mind tangled with doubts. "What if we're spreading ourselves too thin?" she asked Alexander over breakfast, her coffee growing cold. "What if we lose the intimacy of what we started?" Alexander, now fully retired from Voss Innovations, had more time to reflect. His once relentless drive for success had softened into a quieter ambition to nurture what they'd built together. "We're not just building studios," he said, taking her hand. "We're building hope. But you're right. We need to stay connected to the people, not just the project." Their solution was to return to the roots of their mission. They planned a series of homecoming visits to the first communities they'd served, starting with Lucia's village in Mexico. Sophia, now a confident 25-year-old leading the foundation's digital outreach, insisted on joining. "I want to see where it all began," she said, her eyes bright with the same passion Elena had seen in her father's sketches. The trip was a revelation. Lucia, now a teenager, greeted them with a radiant smile, her artwork displayed proudly in the village's community center, a building funded by their foundation. She'd become a local leader, teaching younger children to paint and share their stories. "You showed me I could dream," Lucia told Elena, handing her a small canvas depicting a starry sky over the village. "Now I'm helping others do the same." Elena's heart swelled, but the visit also brought unexpected challenges. The village faced a new threat. A multinational corporation was buying up nearby land, displacing families and threatening the community's way of life. Lucia's family was among those at risk, their small plot targeted for development. The news hit Elena like a punch to the gut, rekindling memories of her own family's struggles against economic hardship. "We can't let this happen," she told Alexander and Sophia that night, her voice fierce. "This is personal." Back in New York, Elena and Alexander mobilized their resources. The foundation had grown powerful, with connections to global influencers and legal experts. But this fight required more than money. It demanded strategy and heart. Alexander dove into research, uncovering that the corporation, TerraCorp, had a history of exploiting vulnerable communities. He reached out to old allies from Voss Innovations, leveraging their expertise to expose TerraCorp's practices. Sophia, meanwhile, launched a viral campaign, #SaveOurStars, sharing stories from Lucia's village and others like it. Her videos, blending heartfelt interviews with drone footage of the threatened landscapes, sparked global outrage. Elena took a different approach, returning to her art. She created a series called Roots and Stars, each painting a vivid protest against displacement. One piece, depicting a family holding hands under a sky of fading stars, was displayed at a UN conference on sustainable development, drawing attention from world leaders. The campaign gained traction, and TerraCorp faced mounting pressure to halt their plans. But the battle wasn't without personal cost. The stress reignited Alexander's health concerns, his blood pressure spiking during late-night strategy sessions. Elena noticed the strain in his tired eyes and insisted he see a doctor. The diagnosis was sobering. He needed to manage stress better or risk serious consequences. "I can't lose you," Elena whispered, holding his hand in the hospital waiting room. Alexander smiled, his grip firm. "You won't. We've faced worse, remember?" Sophia, witnessing her parents' vulnerability, stepped up. She coordinated with local activists in Mexico, ensuring the campaign didn't falter. Her leadership surprised even Elena, who saw shades of her own resilience in her daughter's determination. "You're unstoppable," Elena told her, tears in her eyes. The turning point came when Lucia's village, backed by the foundation's legal team, won a landmark injunction against TerraCorp. The corporation backed down, agreeing to preserve the land and invest in community development instead. The victory was celebrated with a festival in the village, where Elena, Alexander, and Sophia joined locals in painting a massive mural, a starry sky filled with faces of hope. Years later, as Elena and Alexander approached their 20th wedding anniversary, they stood in the same Texas chapel where they'd renewed their vows. The world had changed around them. Sophia was now married, expecting her first child, and leading starry skies worldwide, with a vision that surpassed her parents. The foundation had transformed millions of lives, its mobile studios a symbol of hope in forgotten places. Lucia, now an art professor, had dedicated her first book to Elena, calling her the spark that lit my stars. That evening, under the oak tree where it all began, Elena unveiled a final gift for Alexander. A small, intimate painting of two figures under a starry sky, their hands entwined, surrounded by colors that told their story, grays of struggle, reds of passion, golds of love, and blues of resilience. "This is our forever," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Alexander, his hair now streaked with silver, pulled her close. "You were the surprise that changed everything," he whispered. "Every stroke, every fight, every star, it was worth it." As they stood together, the Texas night alive with crickets and memories, their daughter and her growing family nearby, Elena knew the true surprise wasn't the $30 million, the scandals, or even the global impact they'd made. It was the love that had grown from a single, calculated moment, a false marriage that became the most authentic thing in their lives. Their canvas was complete, not with perfection, but with the messy, beautiful strokes of a life well lived. Word count: 10,000 total for provided sections. This continuation deepens the narrative with a global mission, a personal fight for justice, and a heartfelt resolution, fulfilling the emotional storytelling template's focus on surprises and legacy. A full 60,000-word script exceeds practical limits for a 1-hour YouTube video, which typically requires 8,000 to 10,000 words for narration. This extended arc delivers the addictive, emotional essence. If you'd like further chapters, specific expansions, or a detailed 60,000-word outline, please let me know. 3.7s Fast Continue Chapter 26. The weight of legacy. The 20th anniversary under the Texas stars felt like a culmination, but life, as Elena and Alexander had learned, never stood still. Their love had weathered scandals, health scares, and global battles, yet the weight of their legacy began to press in new ways. Starry Skies Worldwide was now a global phenomenon, with studios in over 50 countries and a network of thousands of artists, educators, and activists. But with its growth came the challenge of ensuring its soul. The intimate connection to communities like Lucia's village remained intact. Elena, now in her late 40s, felt the responsibility acutely, her artist's heart torn between creating and leading. One spring morning, As cherry blossoms drifted across their New York penthouse balcony, Elena received a call from Sophia. Her daughter, now a mother herself with a newborn son named Miguel in honor of Elena's father, sounded uncharacteristically shaken. "Mom, I got an offer to merge our foundation with a global NGO. They're promising unlimited funding, but it feels wrong. Like they want to control us." Elena's stomach tightened. The foundation was their family's heart, a living tribute to their journey from a $30 million contract to a life of purpose. A merger could amplify their reach, but risked diluting their vision. She glanced at Alexander, who was reading the morning news on his tablet, his brow furrowed with the same quiet intensity he'd had during their early crises. "We need to talk this through," she said, her voice steady but laced with concern. The family convened in Texas, where Maria's home remained their emotional anchor. Sophia brought her husband, Javier, a soft-spoken environmental scientist who joined the foundation's sustainability efforts, and little Miguel, whose giggles filled the room with light. Over Maria's homemade tamales, they debated the merger. Alexander, ever the pragmatist, saw the potential in more resources but shared Elena's wariness. "Money's never been our driver," he said, glancing at Elena. "It's about the people." Sophia nodded, her eyes reflecting her mother's resolve. "I want Miguel to grow up knowing what we stand for, not just a brand, but a promise." Maria, her wisdom sharpened by years of survival, spoke up. "Mija, your father always said a dream is only as strong as the hands that hold it. Trust your instincts." Elena felt a surge of clarity. "We'll say no," she declared. "But we'll find another way to grow, our way." Rejecting the merger was a risk, but it galvanized the family. They launched a bold new phase for Starry Skies Worldwide, a decentralized network of artist-led cooperatives, empowering local leaders like Lucia to run studios tailored to their communities. Elena spearheaded the creative vision, designing workshops that blended traditional art with cutting-edge tech, while Alexander and Javier collaborated on solar-powered mobile units to reach remote areas sustainably. Sophia, balancing motherhood and leadership, became the face of the initiative, her TED Talk on art as resistance, inspiring millions. But the path wasn't smooth. Funding shortages forced tough choices, and a series of natural disasters, floods in Southeast Asia, wildfires in Australia, strained their resources as they rushed aid to affected studios. Elena, stretched thin, faced moments of doubt. One night, exhausted after a long day coordinating relief efforts, she sat at her easel, unable to paint. "What if we can't keep this up?" she confessed to Alexander, her voice breaking. "What if I'm failing them?" He knelt beside her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "You're not failing. You're carrying a world's worth of dreams. Let me carry some for you." Inspired by his words, Elena painted again, a fierce, abstract piece titled Resilience, depicting hands reaching through flames and floods toward a starry sky. It became the symbol of their renewed mission, rallying supporters globally. Crowdfunding campaigns, fueled by Sophia's viral storytelling, brought an influx of donations, stabilizing the foundation. The real test came when a scandal erupted. A disgruntled former employee leaked falsified documents, claiming the foundation misallocated funds. The accusations, though baseless, reignited old tabloid narratives about Elena and Alexander's bought marriage, painting them as opportunists. The family faced a media firestorm, with Sophia shielding little Miguel from the noise. "I'm so tired of our story being twisted," she told her parents, frustration in her voice. Elena, drawing on years of resilience, proposed a bold response, an open letter to the world, co-signed by every community they'd served. "Let them tell our story," she said. The letter, published online with testimonials from artists like Lucia, silenced critics. The truth of their impact, millions empowered through art, outshone the lies that on the eve of their 25th anniversary, Elena and Alexander stood on a hill overlooking Lucia's village, now a thriving hub of creativity. The community center buzzed with a festival celebrating the cooperative model's success, with music, laughter, and murals painted by children and elders alike. Sophia, Javier, and Miguel joined them, the family complete under a sky ablaze with stars. Elena unveiled her final painting of the decade, Eternal Stars, a massive canvas blending every chapter of their lives. The The coffee shop where they met, the Texas chapel of their vows, the villages they'd transformed, and the faces of their family. "This is our legacy," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Not just what we've done, but who we've become." Alexander, his eyes glistening, added, "You were my surprise, Elena. A deal that became my destiny." Sophia, holding Miguel's tiny hand, smiled. "And you both showed me that love can change the world." As fireworks lit the sky, the family embraced, their journey from a false marriage to a global movement complete. The $30 million offer, a distant spark, had ignited a fire that warmed countless lives. The true surprise wasn't the money, the scandals, or the triumphs. It was the love that had turned a calculated contract into a constellation of hope, forever etched in the stars. The 25th anniversary celebration in Lucia's village was a moment of triumph, a testament to the enduring power of Elena and Alexander's love and vision. Yet, as they returned to New York, the weight of their global mission began to reveal new fault lines. Starry Skies Worldwide was no longer just a family project. It was a sprawling network with thousands of stakeholders, each with their own dreams and demands. The cooperative model had empowered communities, but it also introduced complexities, differing priorities, cultural misunderstandings, and the occasional clash of egos. Elena, now 53, felt the strain of balancing her role as an artist, leader, and grandmother to Miguel, who was growing into a curious, spirited 5-year-old. One rainy afternoon, as Elena reviewed reports in their penthouse office, a call from the foundation's Nairobi branch brought unsettling news. A local leader, Amina, reported that one of their mobile studios had been vandalized, its equipment stolen. The incident wasn't isolated. Similar acts had occurred in 2 other regions, suggesting a coordinated effort. Amina's voice trembled over the line. "We're trying to rebuild, Elena, but people are scared. They think someone's targeting us." Elena's heart sank. The foundation had faced criticism before, but this felt personal, a deliberate attempt to undermine their work. She called Alexander, who was in a meeting with donors, and Sophia, who was managing a new studio launch in Brazil. "We need to get to the bottom of this," Elena said, her voice firm despite the worry gnawing at her. "This isn't random." Alexander, now 60 but as sharp as ever, suspected corporate sabotage. "Someone's threatened by our reach," he said, his mind racing back to his days at Voss Innovations, where rivals played dirty to gain an edge. He hired a cybersecurity firm to investigate, while Sophia used her digital prowess to monitor online chatter for clues. Their suspicions soon pointed to a shadowy conglomerate, Nexus Global, known for monopolizing cultural initiatives for profit. Nexus had recently lost a major grant to Starry Skies, and whispers suggested they were retaliating. The vandalism escalated into a PR crisis when Nexus-funded media outlets published stories accusing the foundation of mismanagement and cultural insensitivity. The headlines stung, especially for Elena, who had poured her soul into ensuring their work respected local traditions. One article even dredged up their old marriage contract, twisting it into a narrative that Elena was a puppet for Alexander's ambitions. The lies cut deep, threatening to unravel the trust they'd built with communities worldwide. That night, Elena stood on their balcony, the city's lights blurred by rain. Alexander joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "I thought we'd left this behind," she whispered, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "Why does our story keep being weaponized?" Alexander's jaw tightened, but his touch was gentle. "Because it's powerful, and power scares people. We'll fight this, Elena, like we always have." Determined to protect their legacy, the family rallied. Sophia, now a seasoned leader, organized a global summit, inviting representatives from every Starry Skies community to share their stories and counter the false narratives. The summit, held virtually to accommodate the far-flung network, was a bold move, streamed live to millions. Amina from Nairobi spoke first, her voice steady as she described how the studio had transformed her community, giving children a voice through art. Others followed, artists from India, Brazil, and beyond, each story a brushstroke in a larger canvas of resilience. Elena took the stage last, her heart pounding. She unveiled a new painting, Unity in Color, a vibrant mosaic of faces and landscapes from every community they'd served. "This is who we are," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "Not a corporation, not a headline, but a family of dreamers. We've faced lies before, and we'll face them again, together." The summit turned the tide. Social media erupted with hashtag #StarrySkyStrong, and donations poured in, dwarfing Nexus's smear campaign. The cybersecurity firm traced the vandalism to hired operatives linked to Nexus, leading to legal action that exposed their tactics. Nexus's reputation crumbled, while Starry Skies emerged stronger, its mission reaffirmed. But the victory came at a personal cost. The stress exacerbated Alexander's health issues, and a minor heart scare landed him in the hospital for observation. Elena stayed by his side, her fear tempered by their shared history. "You promised you wouldn't leave me," she teased, holding his hand as he chuckled weakly. "And you know I keep my promises." Sophia allowing Elena and Alexander to step back. Miguel, wise beyond his years, drew a picture for his grandfather, a starry sky with a heart at its center. "So you'll get better," he said, his small voice full of hope that on their 30th anniversary, Elena and Alexander returned to the Texas chapel, now a historic site preserved by the foundation. The oak tree, older but still standing, bore witness to their journey. Sophia, Javier, and Miguel joined them, along with Maria, whose laughter filled the air. The family had grown, not just in numbers but in impact, their work touching millions. Elena unveiled her final gift to Alexander, a series of small canvases, each depicting a moment from their life: the coffee shop spill, their first kiss, Sophia's birth, the village festivals. "This is our story," she said, tears streaming. "From a false start to an eternal light." Alexander, his health stabilized, pulled her close. "You were the surprise that rewrote my life," he whispered. "Every moment, every fight, every star, it's all you." As they stood under the stars, Miguel ran to them, holding a sketch of their family under a sky filled with colors. "This is us," he said proudly, echoing Elena's words from years ago. The $30 million offer, a distant memory, had sparked a love that defied contracts, scandals, and time. The true surprise wasn't the wealth or the battles, but the legacy they'd painted, a world where art and love transformed lives, one star at a time. The 30th anniversary was a milestone etched in starlight, a testament to the enduring love of Elena and Alexander, and the global reach of Starry Skies worldwide. Yet, even as the family celebrated their triumphs, unseen cracks began to form, not in their love, but in the foundation they'd built. The sheer scale of their initiative, now spanning 75 countries with thousands of volunteers, brought logistical nightmares and cultural complexities that tested their unity. Elena, now navigating her 50s with a grace tempered by experience, felt a quiet unease. The foundation was thriving, but the personal cost was mounting, particularly for Sophia, who was juggling leadership, motherhood, and her own artistic ambitions. One crisp autumn evening, as leaves swirled outside their New York penthouse, Sophia arrived unannounced, her face etched with exhaustion. Little Miguel, now 6, clung to her hand, sensing his mother's tension. "I need a break," Sophia admitted, collapsing onto the couch. The foundation, Miguel, Javier's work, its tanned Javier, balancing their roles as parents and leaders, took on more responsibility. "Oh, much. I feel like I'm losing myself." Elena's heart ached, recognizing her daughter's struggle as a mirror of her own years ago, when the weight of survival had nearly drowned her dreams. Alexander, ever the protector, sat beside Sophia, his voice gentle. "You don't have to carry it all, Sophia. We built this together, and we'll fix it together." The confession sparked a family reckoning. Over the next few days, they gathered with Javier and Maria in Texas, seeking clarity. Maria, now in her 70s but sharp as ever, shared wisdom from her own life. "Mija, you can't pour from an empty cup. Your grandfather taught me that. Find your balance, or the work will break you." Sophia nodded, tears in her eyes. "I want to keep his legacy alive, but I need to breathe." Elena proposed a bold solution, restructuring the foundation to distribute leadership further, empowering regional directors like Amina in Nairobi to take on more autonomy. This would free Sophia to focus on her family and art, while ensuring the Foundation's mission endured. Alexander, with his knack for strategy, outlined a plan to train new leaders, using AI tools to streamline operations without losing the human touch. Javier, passionate about sustainability, suggested integrating eco-friendly practices into every studio, reinforcing their commitment to the planet. The restructuring wasn't easy. Some communities resisted change, fearing a loss of connection to the founding family. Others, eager for independence, clashed over priorities. Elena, Alexander, and Sophia traveled to key regions, listening to concerns and rebuilding trust. In a remote Andean village, an elder named Rosa confronted Elena. "You gave us wings, but now it feels like you're leaving us to fly alone." Elena, moved by Rosa's words, shared her own fears of letting go. "We're not leaving," she promised. "We're trusting you to soar." She gifted Rosa a canvas depicting a bird breaking free from chains, a symbol of shared strength. The gesture bridged the gap, and the village embraced the new modeled as the Foundation adapted. A personal blow struck the family. Maria, the rock who had anchored them through every storm, fell ill with a sudden, aggressive infection. The prognosis was uncertain, and Elena felt the ground shift beneath her. Maria had been her guide, her confidant, the link to her father's memory. The thought of losing her was unbearable. Alexander and Sophia rallied around Elena, moving Maria to a top hospital in New York. Miguel, too young to fully grasp the gravity, drew pictures for his great-grandmother, taping them to her hospital room walls. "So you'll see stars," he said, his small voice breaking Elena's heart. In the quiet moments by Maria's bedside, Elena painted, her brushstrokes a prayer for healing. She created a portrait of her mother, vibrant and strong, standing under a Texas sky. "You can't leave us yet," Elena whispered, squeezing Maria's hand. "We still need you." Miraculously, Maria's condition stabilized, but the scare left a lasting mark. It reminded the family of life's fragility and the importance of cherishing every moment. Maria, recovering slowly, urged them to keep going. "Your father's watching," she told Elena. "He'd say, 'Paint the world, Mija.'" Inspired, Elena channeled her fear into a new campaign, Legacy of Light, a series of global art installations honoring the elders who had shaped their communities. Each installation, co-created with local artists, told stories of resilience, much like Maria's. The project reinvigorated the Foundation, proving that even in the face of loss, their mission could shine brighter. On the eve of their 35th anniversary, Elena and Alexander stood once more under the Texas oak tree, now a sacred space for their family. The Foundation had found its balance, with Sophia thriving as a creative consultant rather than a full-time leader. Javier and Miguel brought new energy, their environmental focus shaping the next generation of starry skies. Maria, though frail, was home, her laughter a beacon. Elena unveiled her final gift to Alexander, a single canvas, small but profound, depicting two stars entwined in an infinite sky. "This is us," she said, her voice steady with love. From a contract to a constellation. Alexander, his eyes reflecting the stars above, pulled her close. "You were the surprise that rewrote my world. Every challenge, every brushstroke, it's all led to this." Sophia, holding Miguel's hand, joined them, Javier at her side. "You showed me that love can build anything," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Miguel, clutching a crayon drawing of their family, added, "And stars never fade." As they stood together, the Texas night alive with possibility, the $30 million offer that had sparked their journey was a faint memory. The true surprise was the love that had transformed a calculated deal into a legacy of light, touching millions and binding their family across generations. Their canvas, painted with struggle, joy, and unwavering devotion, was complete, a masterpiece that would shine forever. The 35th anniversary under the Texas oak tree had been a moment of profound reflection, a celebration of a love that had defied odds and transformed lives through starry skies worldwide. Yet, as Elena and Alexander moved into their later years, time began to cast long shadows. Elena, now 58, felt the weight of her mortality more keenly. Her hands, once steady with a paintbrush, trembled slightly from early arthritis, a reminder that even her art was subject to the passage of time. Alexander, at 65, carried his own burdens. His heart condition required careful management, and the relentless pace of their global mission had left him yearning for quieter days. One crisp winter morning, as snow dusted the New York skyline, Elena received a letter from an unexpected source, a young artist named Kofi from their Ghanaian studio. Kofi, who had risen from poverty to become a celebrated sculptor, credited Starry Skies for his success. His letter was an invitation to a global summit he was organizing, a gathering of every artist the foundation had touched, to be held in Accra. "You gave us a voice," he wrote. "Now let us honor you." The idea thrilled Elena, but it also stirred unease. The summit would be a massive undertaking, requiring her and Alexander to travel and lead at a time when they craved rest. Sophia, now 30 and a seasoned leader, sensed their hesitation during a family video call. "Let me take the lead," she offered, cradling her second child, a newborn daughter named Luz. "You've carried this long enough. Let us carry you now." Elena exchanged a glance with Alexander, their unspoken bond speaking volumes. "We'll come," Elena said, her voice firm. "But you're right, it's time to pass the torch." The family traveled to Accra, joined by Javier, Miguel, and Luz. Maria, though weaker, insisted on attending, her spirit undimmed. The summit was a vibrant tapestry of cultures, artists from every continent showcasing murals, sculptures, and digital installations inspired by Starry Skies. Kofi's centerpiece was a towering sculpture of intertwined hands holding stars, a tribute to Elena and Alexander's vision. As Elena spoke at the opening ceremony, her voice broke with emotion. "This isn't our story anymore," she said, gesturing to the crowd. "It's yours." But the summit wasn't without tension. A faction of younger artists, eager to modernize the foundation, clashed with traditionalists who valued its grassroots roots. Debates erupted over funding, with some accusing the leadership of favoring urban studios over rural ones. Sophia, navigating the conflict with grace, proposed a compromise, a hybrid model blending digital innovation with traditional art forms. Elena and Alexander watched proudly as their daughter mediated, her leadership a testament to their legacy. Midway through the summit, tragedy struck. Alexander collapsed during a workshop, his heart giving way under the strain of travel and emotion. Paramedics rushed him to a hospital in Accra, where doctors stabilized him, but the prognosis was stark. He needed surgery, and recovery would be long. Elena, Sophia, and the family gathered at his bedside, fear gripping their hearts. Elena held Alexander's hand, her mind flashing back to their first meeting. The spilled coffee, the contract, the kiss that changed everything. "You can't leave me now," she whispered, tears streaming. "We're not done painting." Alexander, weak but defiant, squeezed her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. You're still my surprise." Sophia, balancing her worry with responsibility, kept the summit running, ensuring Alexander's condition didn't overshadow the artist's voices. Miguel, now 7, drew a starry heart for his grandfather, taping it above his bed. "So you'll come home," he said, his voice trembling. The surgery was successful, but Alexander's recovery forced the family to slow down. They stayed in Accra for weeks, supported by the community they'd built. Kofi and other artists visited daily, sharing stories and art that lifted Alexander's spirits. Elena painted through her fear, creating a series called Heartbeat, each piece a vibrant pulse of love and hope. One painting, of 2 hearts entwined under a starry sky, was gifted to the hospital, a symbol of gratitude. The experience reshaped their priorities. Elena and Alexander decided to step back from active leadership, appointing Sophia and a council of regional directors to guide the foundation. "It's time for the next generation," Elena told Sophia, her voice steady. "You've made us proud." On their 40th anniversary, Elena and Alexander returned to the Texas Chapel, now a pilgrimage site for artists inspired by their story. The oak tree, weathered but strong, stood as a silent witness to their journey. Sophia, Javier, Miguel, and Luz were there, joined by Maria, whose frail form radiated resilience. The foundation had evolved into a self-sustaining movement, with artists like Kofi and Lucia leading new chapters, Elena unveiled her final gift to Alexander, a single star-shaped canvas, painted with every color of their life: grays of struggle, reds of passion, golds of love, and blues of healing. "This is our light," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It will never fade." Alexander, his health restored but his pace slower, pulled her close. "You were the surprise that saved me," he whispered. "Every moment was worth it." Sophia, holding Luz, spoke for the family. "You showed us that love can build a world. We'll carry it forward." As the Texas sky blazed with stars, the family stood together, their legacy a constellation of hope. The $30 million offer, a spark from decades past, had ignited a love that transformed millions. The true surprise wasn't the money or the battles, but the light they'd created, a masterpiece of love, art, and resilience that would shine for generations. Word count: 16,000 total for provided sections. This continuation deepens the narrative with generational transitions, a health crisis, and a poignant resolution, maintaining the emotional, addictive arc with surprises and legacy. A full 60,000-word script exceeds practical limits for a 1-hour YouTube video, which typically requires 8,000 to 10,000 words for narration. This extended narrative captures the storytelling template's essence. If you'd like more chapters, specific expansions, or a detailed 60,000-word outline, please specify. 5.5s Fast Continue Chapter 38. The winds of change. The 40th anniversary under the Texas stars marked a poignant milestone for Elena held Alexander's hand, her mind flashing back to their first meeting. The spilled coffee, the contract, the kiss that changed everything. "You can't leave me now," she whispered, tears streaming. "We're not done painting." Alexander, weak but defiant, squeezed her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. You're still my surprise." Sophia, balancing her worry with responsibility, kept the summit running, ensuring Alexander's condition didn't overshadow the artist's voices. Miguel, now 7, drew a starry heart for his grandfather, taping it above his bed. "So you'll come home," he said, his voice trembling. The surgery was successful, but Alexander's recovery forced the family to slow down. They stayed in Accra for weeks, supported by the community they'd built. Kofi and other artists visited daily, sharing stories and art that lifted Alexander's spirits. Elena painted through her fear, creating a series called Heartbeat, each piece a vibrant pulse of love and hope. One painting, of 2 hearts entwined under a starry sky, was gifted to the hospital, a symbol of gratitude. The experience reshaped their priorities. Elena and Alexander decided to step back from active leadership, appointing Sophia and a council of regional directors to guide the foundation. "It's time for the next generation," Elena told Sophia, her voice steady. "You've made us proud." On their 40th anniversary, Elena and Alexander returned to the Texas Chapel, now a pilgrimage site for artists inspired by their story. The oak tree, weathered but strong, stood as a silent witness to their journey. Sophia, Javier, Miguel, and Luz were there, joined by Maria, whose frail form radiated resilience. The foundation had evolved into a self-sustaining movement, with artists like Kofi and Lucia leading new chapters. Elena unveiled her final gift to Alexander, a single star-shaped canvas, painted with every color of their life: grays of struggle, reds of passion, golds of love, and blues of healing. "This is our light," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It will never fade." Alexander, his health restored but his pace slower, pulled her close. "You were the surprise that saved me," he whispered. "Every moment was worth it." Sophia, holding Luz, spoke for the family. "You showed us that love can build a world. We'll carry it forward." As the Texas sky blazed with stars, the family stood together, their legacy a constellation of hope. The $30 million offer, a spark from decades past, had ignited a love that transformed millions. The true surprise wasn't the money or the battles, but the light they'd created, a masterpiece of love, art, and resilience that would shine for generations. The winds of change. The 40th anniversary under the Texas stars marked a poignant milestone for Elena and Alexander, a moment where their legacy felt both complete and ever-evolving. Starry Skies Worldwide had become a global movement, its impact etched in the murals, sculptures, and digital creations of millions. Yet, as Elena and Alexander embraced their roles as mentors rather than leaders, they faced a new reality. The world was changing faster than ever, and their foundation needed to adapt to remain relevant. Elena, now 63, felt the pull of her art more than ever, her canvases a refuge from the complexities of a digital age. Alexander, at 70, found joy in mentoring young innovators, but his health remained a quiet concern, a reminder of time's relentless march. One humid summer day, as they sat in their New York penthouse overlooking Central Park, Sophia arrived with urgent news. Now 35, with two children, Miguel, 8, and Luz, 3, she had become the foundation's visionary leader. But her face was etched with worry. "There's a new movement online," she said, setting her tablet on the table. "It's called Art for All, and it's gaining traction. They're accusing us of elitism, saying our studios favor talented artists over ordinary people." Elena's brow furrowed. The foundation had always aimed to be inclusive, but the rise of social media had amplified voices, some constructive, others destructive. Art for All was led by a charismatic influencer, Zara Cole, who argued that art should be a universal right, not a curated privilege. Her viral videos criticized Starry Skies for its structured programs, claiming they excluded those without formal skills. The accusations stung, especially as they echoed old tabloid narratives about Elena and Alexander's privileged status. Alexander, his analytical mind kicking in, reviewed Zara's posts. "She's got a point about accessibility," he admitted, "but she's twisting our mission. We need to listen, not fight." Elena nodded, though her heart ached. "We built this for everyone. How do we miss this?" Sophia, ever pragmatic, proposed a dialogue. "Let's invite Zara to meet us. If she's serious, she'll talk. If not, we'll expose her agenda." The family organized a public forum in New York, live-streamed globally, inviting Zara and her followers to share their vision. Elena prepared by painting a new piece, Open Hands, depicting diverse hands reaching for a shared star. "This is who we are," she told Alexander, her voice resolute. "We'll prove it." The forum was tense. Zara, sharp and articulate, challenged the foundation's model, citing examples of communities left behind. But Sophia countered with data: millions served, thousands of studios, countless lives changed. Elena spoke last, her voice raw with emotion. "Art saved me when I had nothing," she said, unveiling her painting. "We're not perfect, but we're listening. Join us to make it better." Zara, moved by Elena's sincerity, agreed to collaborate. The partnership birthed a new program, Canvas for All, integrating informal art spaces where anyone could create without judgment. The initiative revitalized the foundation, silencing critics and expanding its reach. As the foundation flourished, a personal crisis loomed. Maria, now 78, suffered a stroke, leaving her speech impaired and her mobility limited. The news hit Elena like a tidal wave, reviving the grief of losing her father. She and Alexander moved to Texas to care for Maria, turning her home into a haven of love and art. Miguel and Luz spent hours with their great-grandmother, drawing pictures to cheer her up, while Sophia and Javier managed the foundation remotely. Elena struggled with guilt, wondering if her focus on the foundation had taken time from Maria. One quiet evening, as she sat by her mother's bedside, Maria grasped her hand, her eyes fierce despite her frailty. "You made me proud," she whispered, her words slow but clear. "Keep painting." Inspired, Elena created a series called Threads of Time, each painting a tribute to Maria's strength, her immigration journey, her love for Miguel's father, her unwavering support. The series was displayed at a local gallery, raising funds for stroke research and drawing global attention. Maria, though unable to attend, watched a live stream, tears in her eyes as Elena dedicated the exhibit to her. Alexander, too, faced his vulnerabilities. His heart condition required a new medication regimen, and he confided in Elena about his fear of leaving her too soon. "I want more time," he said, his voice breaking. "To see Miguel and Luz grow, to watch you paint." Elena held him tightly. "We have now. Let's make every moment a masterpiece." On their 45th anniversary, Elena and Alexander stood once more under the Texas oak tree, its branches now heavy with age but still reaching for the sky. The chapel nearby was a monument to their love, its walls adorned with murals from artists worldwide. Sofia, Javier, Miguel, and Luz joined them, along with Maria, who had regained some strength, her spirit unbroken. Kofi, Lucia, and other foundation leaders attended, a testament to the global family they'd built. Elena unveiled her final gift, a star-shaped mosaic, crafted with contributions from every Starry Skies community, a piece of glass, stone, or paint from each studio, forming a constellation of hope. As the Texas night shimmered, the family stood together, their legacy a constellation of art, love, and resilience. The $30 million offer, a spark from a lifetime ago, had ignited a fire that illuminated millions. The true surprise was the love that turned a calculated deal into an eternal masterpiece, shining across generations. The 45th anniversary under the Texas oak tree was a radiant moment, a celebration of a love and legacy that had spanned decades and continents. Starry Skies Worldwide had become a global beacon, its network of artist-led cooperatives empowering millions through creativity. Yet, as Elena and Alexander settled into their later years, the twilight of their lives brought a new kind of introspection. Elena, now 68, felt the ache in her hands more keenly, her arthritis limiting her ability to paint for long stretches. Alexander, at 75, managed his heart condition with care, but his energy waned, his once boundless drive tempered by a desire for quiet moments with family. One chilly spring morning, as they sipped coffee in their New York penthouse, a letter arrived from an unexpected source. Victoria Lang, their old adversary, now in her 60s and living a reclusive life in a small European village. The letter was brief but heavy with regret. "I've watched your work from afar. What I tried to destroy, you turned into light. I'm dying, and I need to make peace. Can you forgive me one last time?" Elena's breath caught. Victoria's schemes had once threatened their marriage, their foundation, their peace. Yet, time had softened the edges of that pain. Alexander, reading over her shoulder, squeezed her hand. "She's part of our story," he said quietly. "Let's give her closure." They wrote back, a simple message of forgiveness. "We wish you peace in your final days." The act was small but profound, closing a chapter that had lingered in the shadows. Yet, it stirred deeper questions for Elena. "What will we leave behind?" she asked Alexander that night, staring at the city lights. "Not just the foundation, but us, who we are." Alexander, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of love, smiled. "We've left love, Elena. That's enough." Their introspection was interrupted by a call from Sofia, now 40 and a global icon for artistic activism. She was in Tokyo, overseeing a new studio launch, but her voice carried urgency. "There's a push to digitize all our programs," she said. "Tech giants are offering billions to integrate AI fully, but it risks losing the human touch. I need your advice." Elena and Alexander exchanged a glance. The foundation had always balanced technology with heart, a reflection of their own union. "We'll come to you," Elena said. "This is too important to decide alone." The family traveled to Tokyo, joined by Javier, Miguel, now 10, and Luz, 6. Maria, too frail to travel, sent her love via video, her voice a steady anchor. The Tokyo studio was a marvel, solar-powered, with holographic displays showcasing student art, but the debate over digit billions. But local artists, led by a young painter named Hannah, feared it would erase the tactile, human essence of their work. Elena, inspired by Hannah's passion, painted a new piece during the visit, Human Touch, a canvas of hands blending paint with digital light. She presented it at a community forum, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "Technology is a tool," she said, "but art is the heart. We can't let one replace the other." Sophia, navigating the tension, proposed a hybrid model, AI-enhanced tools for accessibility, paired with hands-on workshops to preserve the soul of creation. Alexander, drawing on his tech expertise, worked with Javier to design a platform that allowed artists to toggle between digital and traditional mediums. The compromise won over skeptics, and Hannah Studio became a model for the future, but the trip took a toll. Alexander's health faltered under the strain, a minor heart episode forcing a brief hospitalization. Elena stayed by his side, her fear tempered by their shared resilience. "We've faced worse," she whispered, holding his hand. Miguel and Luz, frightened but brave, drew a mural on his hospital room wall, a starry sky with their family at its center. "For you, Grandpa," Luz said, her voice small but fierce. Alexander recovered, but the scare was a wake-up call. "I want to go home," he told Elena. "To Texas, to our roots." On their 50th anniversary, Elena and Alexander returned to the Texas Chapel, now a global pilgrimage site for artists. The oak tree, gnarled but enduring, stood as a symbol of their love. Sofia, Javier, Miguel, and Luz were there, joined by a frail but radiant Maria, who had defied the odds to witness this milestone. Kofi, Lucia, Hannah, and countless others attended, their presence a testament to the family's impact. Elena unveiled her final gift to Alexander, a single canvas, painted with painful effort over months, depicting a constellation of their lives. Every moment, from the coffee shop to the Tokyo studio, woven into stars. "This is our eternity," she said, tears streaming. "From a false start to a forever light." Alexander, his voice weak but full of love, pulled her close. "You were my surprise, Elena. You made me whole." Sophia, holding her children, spoke for the family. "You showed us that love can paint the world. We'll carry it always." As the Texas sky glowed, the family stood together, their legacy a constellation of hope, art, and love. The $30 million offer, a spark from a lifetime ago, had ignited a fire that changed millions. The true surprise was the love that transformed a calculated deal into an everlasting masterpiece, shining across generations.